Let's get it going on Game Day Winnipeg. What's going on, everybody? Darrin, Bauming, Chris Walby getting you set for Week 15 in the Canadian Football League. The Bombers are at 12-1, Chris Walby. Answer
Really?
me this. Why are the Hamilton Tiger Cats tied for last place in the CFL at 3-9? And we're getting a Grey Cup rematch here.
Well, you know what I think it is, and I think it basically comes down to one thing, and that's turnovers. They are the worst team for turning the ball. They have 41 turnovers. They're just terrible there. I mean, they've got the most fumbles. They're right on top of the interceptions. Dane Evans, who's struggled mightily, obviously leads the league with 13 interceptions as an individual quarterback, plus 6 fumbles. They just shot themselves in the foot. There's a couple of games where they had the game in hand, and they fumbled the ball, or they threw an untimely interception and let the other team back in. This is a better team than 3-9. Offensively, they've got some weapons, and Dane is actually saying he feels better after the bye. He's healthy. He feels like his shoulder's as good as it's going to get. He hasn't played for 3 games.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get, I don't mind Matt Schlitz. Is it Schlitz?
Schultz.
I'm sorry. I've got beer on the brain. Schlitz. I'm sorry, man.
What was it? Schlitz.
Mind you, today, have you said that?
Saturday Night Live, it was Schlitz Gay, right? That's that famous Chris Farley, Adam Sandler bit, right? With all the dudes in the Speedos at the poolside.
I don't mind him. Matty's pretty good, but yeah, you're right.
One of
but
my
the other
faves.
kid, they played. I think they played Jamie Newman against Toronto, and he struggled mightily.
Not ready for prime time is Jamie Newman.
It's not, because it's
it will be Dane Evans.
Yeah, but you know what? It's one thing to do to have a guy in practice look good. The pressure's not there. The lights aren't on for real. The bullets aren't flying for real. And all of a sudden now you're in a game where guys are trying to take your head off. And unfortunately, he just couldn't rise to the occasion. Now he might be a good quarterback down the future. Right now, no, he's not. I'm excited to see what Dane's going to bring. He's been under the fire. He's fallen on his sword. He blames himself. He does not say that it's anybody. He said he cost him a lot of things, right? But listen, he's healthy. This is a team that is 5-1 off the bye week. They're 1-0 after the bye week this year, but they have not won a game against the West. There's question marks in this team. I will say this: they have a pretty good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense can fly around. I was listening to Cam Kelly talk the other day, and he feels like they have the best DBs. They should be ranked in the top of the DB category. They have some great players. I mean, we know Jovan Santos Knox, who was here as a bomber. He's playing very well for Hamilton. Listen, when I look at this is number 1 team against the run, and I'm talking about Ticats. I mean, you got Micah Johnson, you got Ted Laurent, you got Dylan Wynn. They got
you love Micah Johnson too.
What's that?
You're a big Micah Johnson guy.
I was. I mean, he's got 4 sacks. He's a horse. I mean, Ted Laurent used to be the horse. Now they got, they're just basically rotating those guys.
Yeah.
But they're starting a new guy at defensive end. They lost Julian Hauser, who was leading them with 5 quarterback sacks. Great football player. They're getting a guy by the name of Trey Crawford, a first-year guy out of Alabama, Birmingham, is getting his first chance to play. 6'3", 245. You know what? And we've said this 100 times. When the door knocks, or you get a knock on the door and that opportunity opens, you got to take advantage of it. We'll see what this kid does. So I'm looking at what's this here about Wade Miller. I don't know.
That was here. I'll throw that back up there. So Daryl, who's watching live on YouTube, says he didn't know Wade Miller, but he introduced himself to the Blue Bombers president and CEO. When Miller heard that Daryl and his family came from 977 kilometers away, Miller gave them sideline passes. Daryl says, total class act. The players are amazingly approachable. It's unreal. Absolutely. This is one of the best things of the Canadian Football League, is that it is real, down-to-earth people that care about you. I think that's why people love the Blue Bombers and love going to games and love these athletes, right, Chris?
Well, you know what? It's funny. Wade is a great guy. He's a great community guy. He was walking. I was at the Banjo Bowl. I got there early, and I was in the Pinnacle room, and Wade came over, patted me on the shoulder. The funny thing about Wade is I said, "Hey, Wade, can I buy a couple of cold ones on your tab?" Well, that guy took off out of the Pinnacle room like he was still running back. He was gone in flash. I never seen Wade move that quick. He was gone. So we started laughing, and we went to the alumni alley where we're signing autographs. Rick House, myself, Trevor Kennard, and a bunch of other cats, Willard Reeves, and I texted him again. I said, "Hey, Wade, buddy, come on, man, you can't hide. Come and buy the boys a couple cold ones down at alumni alley." Well, needless to say, I never heard from him. So I'm happy to hear that he's doing this for other guys, and I love the fact that he took care of Daryl and his family. And I love the fact that these people felt it was even worth it to drive, basically almost 1,000 kilometers to catch the game. It's a big game. Obviously, it was a great game. I don't think we've ever seen, aside from the one Mario Alford return touchdown, it was about as complete a game as I've ever seen, buddy.
No question. No question about that. The Bombers were on point in the 18th annual Banjo Bowl. They win their third straight annual classic following the Labor Day Classic. And what stood out to me in that game, Chris, is the Zach Collaros-led offense.
Oh my
when
God.
Collaros was on the field, 7 possessions, 7 scores, including 4 straight touchdowns in the first half. And it was pretty much over from there. The crowd was into it. The Blue Bombers were into it. And a virus-riddled Saskatchewan Roughriders team just couldn't play the same game the Blue Bombers were. How much do you think that affected them? Because you and I talked about it.
Absolutely. Come on. I mean, I know that people are thinking that's an excuse, but seriously, I remember listening to Cody Fajardo said it was like a triage in there, a triage with the everybody getting IVs, trying to get their water back in their body. They ate out. They got food poisoning. I've heard 2 different stories. One, I heard it was something they ate here, because I heard Craig Dickinson say that he was out, went for a certain meal, came back, got very sick. He said, I had just got over COVID, and I felt worse than when I had COVID. They had 2 starting offensive linemen that couldn't play. And if you can't, they had to drive a guy in the day of the game because they can't fly him out because obviously, the flights.
Domagala, the
it's crazy quarterback. When you think about it, right? This is one of those things. Listen, do I think it affected him? Absolutely. Do I think it affected the outcome of the win? No. The Bombers, I think, even if the Saskatchewan had put together their number 1 team, Zach Collaros, that was about as good a game I've seen a quarterback play. Extended plays with his leg like he's done all year. 4 touchdowns. I think it's the 5th time he's done that. League leading 26 touchdowns, which is one better than his career best 25. Mm-hmm. He's just doing outstanding things. His receivers, they're on point with him. Dalton Schoen, the rookie, again with his 10th touchdown tie for the lead. You know what? He just makes it. And we always talked about it last week. We said one guy that always comes to play every game, but for some reason he plays even better when it's against Saskatchewan. That was Nick Demsky again.
Yeah.
The guy gets open, makes great plays, great catches, great concentration, a couple touchdowns. But that was last week. I like Hamilton because, one of the things I didn't like, we knew it was going to come down to this. Bombers are the number 1 team on second down and conversion. Do you know they were 20 of 25 in second down conversion versus Saskatchewan? 80%. That's ridiculous.
Saskatchewan couldn't stop them.
No, they couldn't stop. And that's the thing. We also knew that going in that when we did our Bonfire Sports, the pregame, we did that podcast. We said Saskatchewan was the worst team of getting teams out. They have the worst second down conversion defense. So, now you look at this team. Conversely, Hamilton, number 1 team, second down conversion on defense. They're the toughest team. They forced the most 2-and-outs.
Yeah.
So this Hamilton defense can get the job. Listen, there's no Samori Lawrence, and he's a big leader on that team. But they're getting great play from Kyle Wilson and Cameron Kelly, and we've already mentioned the aforementioned Jovan Santos Knox. I think they're as good a defense as we've seen. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do. They give up a lot of passing yards. They give up a lot of big plays. I think they've given up 30 passes or 22 passes over 30. They're susceptible to the big play on defense. But having said that, if their offense can play decent, they're missing another guy too. And I know I'm going all over. I always do this. I do this pinball thing. When you talk about Lawrence Woods, the returner's out.
If you were a pinball wizard, you'd be getting monster points right now because you've just been going and going.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I look at it. I love researching these games because I want to see who's in, who's out, and the guys that are out, are they affecting? Did they affect the overall performance of that team? Lawrence Woods, the number 1 punt returner. He's got a bunch of touchdowns. Now they go with Pappy White. Julian House, we just mentioned, he's obviously, leads the Ticats with 5 quarterback sacks. He's out.
All-star.
He's an all-star. Yeah. So listen, what they've got, good thing. I listened to Orlando Steinhauer, the head coach of the Ticats. And he is very much a clone of Michael O'Shea. You could tell these guys
close, right?
up the same system.
I think they share a lot of those mentalities.
Absolutely. The way they treat their players, the culture they try and, to do there. He's just one of those guys that players love playing for him. And they know. And so that's why I think it'll be an interesting game. If Dane Evans can play like he can play, we got us a game tomorrow. If he still struggles and throws the bad pick or fumbles, I think the Bombers are going to have just a field day.
Chris, a couple things I will chime in on. And while I am, I hope you can do us all a favor. Go into your microphone settings and make sure you got that microphone selected, because I'm pretty sure you don't have the right one. I want to make sure people can hear the legend himself.
Are you telling me I'm not on again?
Yeah, I think you got the camera mic picked. See if you can figure it out. I'll just mention a couple things while we're here. I will correct you. I hate to correct you, but I will.
Yeah, do it.
I am told it was a stomach virus that went through the room. The idea that it had something to do with food poisoning was probably misconstrued from comments about saying, I went out to dinner, I came home, and then I didn't feel good. Circumstantial.
Well, that's what I heard.
Yep.
I heard that from Craig Dickinson. That's the head coach. So,
his 10th touchdown of the season leads the CFL. Dominique Grimes has 9. Schoen has 10. To be a rookie and have a number like that, and then also lead the league, is really something. I love what Joe Pascucci, legendary television reporter and CFL historian here in Winnipeg. He's now moved on in retirement and living out of the province, but he put it out there that rookie record set by a Winnipeg Blue Bomber in 1952 or 1955, I think, was actually done by an individual who played 4 years in the NFL. Dalton Schoen was in some NFL facilities, but never made an active roster, never played in a game. For him to play his first pro football and lead the league in touchdowns in his rookie season really is something. You mentioned those guys out, and no doubt Julian Hauser, huge hit to the Hamilton Tiger Cats defensive front. They're also without, of course, Simone Lawrence, still on the 6-game injured list, but it's the offense that has taken huge hits this season, including somebody I know you got huge respect for his game, and that's Chris Van Zyl. He's been on the 6-game for a good stretch of time, as has been Canadian offensive lineman Alex Fontana. Mike O'Shea mentioning this week that while, the turnovers haven't been great and their ability to finish games has not been great, so many tight losses the Ticats have had amongst their 9 L's this season. And the turnovers, of course, it's been all of that change up on the offensive line that has been very, very hard for them to kind of navigate. They're going to dress 7 offensive linemen tomorrow, which tells you how things are kind of shaken out. They want to make sure they have some extra bodies there if they need them.
It's really weird when you think about it, because they've shifted everybody around. Obviously, the only constant in that has been Revenberg and Kelly. Right now, Tyrone Riley is getting his first start to North Carolina State. He's getting at left tackle. With the last week, they had Woodmansky playing center, Beard playing right guard. Now they've got Beard back at center. He's a guy that they acquired from Edmonton. He's a perennial all-star, so that's a big thing for them. Woodmansky shifts now to right guard. But anytime you make these kind of shifts, obviously there's a change in the chemistry and the continuity among that O-line. So, that'll be a big thing. And they're also missing Don Jackson. He's their premier running back. So now they're going with a kid they like.
They barely run the ball, right? Like, have you seen a team in the CFL not run the way the Ticats don't run?
They do not have one guy over 100 yards this year as far as rushing.
Yeah,
it's not good. I mean, this is a team that used to love to run. They've got Wes Hills playing, guy out of Delaware, 6'1", 220. This is his second game. He played one game. He rushed 8 times for 40 yards, 5-yard average. And then they obviously got Sean Thomas Earlington in there as well. But you're right, they don't run the ball, and that's very surprising. Tommy Kendall, the offensive coordinator, you think he would utilize that to take some pressure off of whoever's back there taking the ball at the quarterback position. So to me, if they do not establish the run and they become one-dimensional, it just plays into Winnipeg's defense. I mean, Willie Jefferson, obviously the player of the week again, him and Zach Collaros, this outstanding game. He's got 9 pass knockdowns. He's number 2. He's got a couple sacks last week. He's back up to number 7 again. So you know what? These guys are just playing well. And if Hamilton wants to live and die by the pass, I think they're going to die before they live.
The live chat saying you sound absolutely minty right now, and I definitely agree. Your microphone hands down so much better. Whoever gave you that microphone, Chris, they know what they're doing. They know.
Yeah, that was the guy. Yeah, I mean, he's a good egg dead guy.
I don't think we should bury the lead here. And in talking about the Hamilton Tiger Cats offense, they're going up against a very different looking Blue Bombers secondary in particular. We're going to get to that in a second, but I would just want to draw attention to this. White and Dunbar. These two guys, not Poppy White, but Tim White Jr. Tim White III and Lawrence Dunbar Jr. These two guys are legit quarterbacks. I know Dane Evans has had a tough year with turnovers in fourth quarters and kind of blowing games, but he can throw the lights out. Watch for White in the slot, Dunbar at the wideout, and they'll move those guys around. But going up against a Blue Bombers defensive secondary, Chris, that will look different. Winston Rose, since the injury to Demario Houston, has been playing that boundary corner next to Dietrich Nichols. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer just so people can maybe see if they're watching on their phone.
That'd be better, It looks like.
But there he is, the man people have been waiting for since the Grey Cup victory in Hamilton. He returns for the first time on the same field where he injured his knee in the championship last season. Brandon Alexander back and starting at free safety. He has looked fresh. He has looked quick. He has looked athletic in practice. That's a huge return, but here's the concern. Jamal Parker, inexperienced rookie, stepping in for the injured Demario Houston, as I mentioned. And with Nick Taylor going down last week, Chris, Evan Holm, who has been pretty much just a kick returner and a reserve for the Blue Bombers, he steps into a halfback spot. This, to me, is the matchup of the game. Don't sleep on Dane Evans. He can throw the football, and Hamilton loves to throw the football. Watch this side of the field here. And if Brandon Alexander can be that all-star caliber player we know him to be, to help these young guys out.
Yeah, I just think people should not expect him to come back and be the all-star Brandon Alexander first game. He is an upgrade,
would you say?
He's a stud. He's an all-star, and that's why he's that. But the fact is, he's been out for a long time, and all of a sudden now you got to get your reads back. Listen, he's a very intelligent guy. I know he's coaching all the DBs all the time. He's helping them and making sure they're in the right spot. So he's, from the mental part of it, he's not going to be hurting. It's the body part. It's the knowing where to go. Just basically getting up there when he throws. I think he'll be happy when he gets his first hit, because remember, they don't do much contact in practice. So it'll be interesting to see when he lays a lick on somebody. I think you're going to see him jump up and feel pretty good. And that's when you know a guy is back, because there's always that hesitation about the one hit. Whether you're a lineman, whether you're a quarterback, you always want to get that one hit out of your way. So that's what I'm looking forward to him. And you're right. Evan Holm, 5'11". Jamal Parker, only 5'8".
Well, that's pretty common now, right?
Yeah. Well, they go more for speed. And I think that's one of the things that O'Shea has said about Evan Holm, the kid out of UND. He's got great speed, and he's a very intelligent young man. He's in meetings. He's soaking everything up like a sponge, like he should. Obviously, very excited to get his first start. But they're also dressing a ton of guys. I mean, they got J.T. Hassel, they got Malcolm Thompson, they got Nick Hallett. They can move guys around if one of these guys unfortunately struggles. So they're doing a smart thing by having enough guys in there to protect himself against anything.
Hassel, another rookie, and really just signed to the team a couple weeks ago. So I'm sure they're hoping not to have to rely on him. Let's not forget about Tyrell Ford, the 2022 draft pick, absolutely blazed in the 40-yard dash at the CFL Combine this past spring. And then, of course, Shane Gauthier once again stepping in at weak side linebacker. You'll see Jesse Briggs. you'll see Cole and you'll see Les Maruo all working in tandem with Adam Bighill in that linebacking core, with both Malik Clements and Kyrie Wilson injured right now. Some people asking about the nature of the Drew Wolotarski injury. He is indeed out and on the Blue Bombers 6-game injured list. Oh, pardon me. He's on the 1 game. That's my mistake. So Wolotarski, Nick Taylor, and Malik Clements all remain on the 1-game injured list. Noah Hallett there, Teodric Hansen there as well. But with Wolotarski out, and I don't think it'll be a short-term thing. I think he's going to miss a couple games. Here he is, the man I call Bolo, Brendan O'Leary Orange, son of Doyle Orange, who rushed for thousands of yards as a member of the Toronto Argonauts in years gone by, pulls in a touchdown in the Banjo Bowl, nearly had 2, Chris. And in talking to him, he says, I'm giving the football to my mom, my first pro touchdown football. And then we said, well, what did your dad have to say? And he said, you should have had that second one, and was, constructively criticizing him. I imagine, as he always did. But nice to have someone like Brendan O'Leary Orange to step in so the Bombers don't have to adjust the ratio elsewhere. Yeah,
it's interesting too. And listen, you've been talking the accolades of Brandon O'Leary Orange for a long time. And unfortunately, he's just a good receiver who's stuck behind a lot of very good receivers. Obviously, that injury to Wolotarski hurts him. I mean, the guitar picker, he was having a career year. I mean, he was just everywhere. He was becoming, again, with him and Dalton Schoen, the way they are making the second down conversions, both of them 1-2. And Dalton still leads the CFL with 28 second down conversions. Just a great relationship with Zach Collaros. But again, there's a thing. I remember I watched the game. I was at the in the box after signing autographs last week, and I saw Stanley Bryant go down. I went, oh my Lord, don't lose that guy. Because, I mean, he is. And actually, I looked up today, and he's in it. He'll be in his 183rd straight game without injury. That's crazy. 183 straight.
They did rest him 1 game last season.
Yeah.
But
they didn't count it.
Effectively, that streak continues, right? That was a non-meaningful game, and they just
that's why they don't hold it against him.
Yeah, no, he's an absolute Iron Man, Stanley Bryant.
I tell you what, it's interesting to look at Calgary too. I mean, Calgary, man, the guy used to coach, the offensive line coach in Calgary used to coach here in Winnipeg, and they're number 1 in the CFL in sacks against. They're really playing well. They got a good offensive line as well. That's the one thing about Calgary. If they come on strong. And then I want to see what Vernon Adams Jr. does in BC against Saskatchewan. That'll be a big thing, too. He's had a full week of practice. I mean, it's not a ton of time, but he said, Rick Campbell, the head coach of BC, figures he's got enough to put in there and to start him and see what happens. So they just weren't getting it done with Pipkin and the other guys. So Vernon is a good addition to that team. We talked about it, and he only played like, I think, 3 plays last week because they didn't want to put him in a situation where he might get hurt because he didn't know the offense. So that was a smart move by head coach Campbell. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. Obviously, Saskatchewan. Fajardo had his baby son. And there was rumors he might not play, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, I think that he will play because he's going to want to, make his child and his wife happy. And I think Saskatchewan, if they get together, like there's some guys, I think Stiegel picked Saskatchewan to be one of the teams that still he figures are in the hunt. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we'll see
if they can eliminate Edmonton from the postseason with a win.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
on Saturday.
You wonder how long. I mean, what kind of leash does Chris Jones have over there? I mean, I know that the owner.
Oh, he's got some time. I think Chris Jones has got some time. He just signed Taylor Cornelius to a 2-year contract extension.
Yeah, and he's getting better. Taylor Cornelius is getting better. I mean, the thing is, it's like a training camp for those guys. Every week I look, transactions.
That's right.
These guys bring 3 more in. They're trying to find that formula to put the winning track back in the Eskimos. The Eskimos are a winning tradition. I mean, when I played back, the years I played, they were always up in the top. They were always one of the top teams. I mean, they beat us in '93 in the Grey Cup. Still a sore point to me to this day. But
do you want to welcome? Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Do you want to welcome everybody joining us on the live raid from Winnipeg Sports Talk? What's going on, everybody? Great to see you, Huss. What's going on, man? Good to see you at the Blake Wheeler press conference earlier today. Tons of news in Winnipeg sports today. Kenny and Rennie got a show going on. Chris, you and I got a show going on. We're here for you, sports fans. Great to see that. You mentioned some of those other games across the CFL, Chris. I think we should draw attention to that, and reminding everybody, you get a very healthy bonus if you sign up at this exclusive link, sia.com/bonfire. Make a deposit up to $500. They will match it dollar for dollar with bet credits. The Bombers 7.5-point favorites in Hamilton on Saturday afternoon. The Stampeders Lions line has moved up and down all week. It was as low as 4. I've seen it as high as 8. It's sitting at 6.5 for the Stampeders right now. You can keep an eye on that. Elks are 7-point dogs in Regina, taking on the, assumedly now healthy, stomach virus ridden Saskatchewan Roughriders. So go check that link out, sia.com/bonfire. Do you see, Chris, the lead of this game, in my mind, do you see Winnipeg vulnerable with so many changes on defense against a talented Ticats offense that Mike O'Shea said himself, don't sleep on these guys. They're a good football team. Their talent is not reflective in their record of 3-9.
No, they're a better team than 3-9. There's no doubt about it. I agree with that 100%. You also understand that O'Shea and Steinhauer, the head coach of Hamilton, are buddies. And both of them are brought for the same thing. You'll never hear them ever downgrade a team. It's always our next opponent. It's 1-0. They both have the same philosophy. You can tell they both played on the same teams together. They coach in the same teams together. I just think that these guys are both winners. Obviously, Orlando would love to have a better record than 3-9. I mean, they made the top, right in the top of the East for the last couple of years. And this year, obviously, they're having some difficulties. Injuries happen. You talked about Chris Van Zyl. He was the most outstanding offensive lineman a couple of years ago. He's just been plagued with injuries. Hasn't been able to play much this year. I think he's had a couple games. But I'm going to just jump back to one thing that you were talking about the other games. And I watched the highlights of the Calgary game when the Calgary just, they really beat the heck out of Edmonton. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really interesting to watch because they hand out game balls. And you know who hung out or handed out the offensive game ball? Was Bo Levi.
Oh, really?
Levi. And I'm thinking to myself, here's a guy who's not even starting right now. He's got to watch Jake Mayer there, the guy playing now. And yet he gets the honor of handing out the game ball. I thought that was just phenomenal. That to me is a team guy. He's not sulking. He's not, he's not downgrading anybody. He's just saying, hey, I'm waiting for my opportunity. I still think I'll play. I think it'd be ridiculous to trade him, but I also think that if they have to pay Jake Mayer, they can't afford both those guys. So that's the reason that in the offseason I say you'll probably see him go somewhere.
Chris, we know there will be teams vying for Bo Levi Mitchell's services if he's made available next year. There's lots of teams in the league that need quarterback help. And why not bring a guy with a winning pedigree like Bo Levi? Yes, he's been pedestrian this year, but he is a proven winner. He is a proven producer and a guy, love him or hate him. I understand he's a polarizing figure in the Canadian Football League amongst fans, but the guy is a leader and people respect him. So to add him to your team, if you're somebody that is looking for quarterback help, like many teams are, I think that's a no-brainer. Let me ask you this, Bluto.
Yes.
I see 3 teams right now that can win the Grey Cup. At number 3, I have the Toronto Argonauts because I expect them to win the East. Yeah. And when you win the East, you're 1 game away. 1 game. Anybody can win 1 game.
That's right.
You're 1 game away from winning the 109th Grey Cup. At number 1, to bookend it, I have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. No question, the favorite across the league to win a 3rd straight Grey Cup. But a team that I think people are sleeping on and not giving enough respect to is the Calgary Stampeders. Bo had been pedestrian all year. They put in Jake Mayer. This looks like a rejuvenated Calgary Stampeders team that in the end will come down to health. If their defensive backfield, similar to Winnipeg's, can get healthy, I think Calgary in the West final could give the Winnipeg Blue Bombers a serious run for their money. Are the Bombers the favorites? No question. Do I think Winnipeg will win those games? I do. But Calgary is capable of beating them. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I think, but I'll put a close second to Calgary in BC if Nathan Rourke comes back before the end of the year. I think Nathan Rourke's that kind of a special guy that will bring something special to BC again. If he gets to, and now somebody told me that he might come back by the end of October. And that's just throughout the grapevine.
24-year-old, you want to rush him and risk it?
Well, you're right, 100%. But you know what? It depends on what their record is at the time and what they're going to do. If Vernon Adams comes up and lights it up, then BC, I don't think are going to worry about it. They won't rush him. But if they're struggling a little bit, I mean, you saw what he did. I mean, the guy had 25 touchdown passes. And
No
he's
doubt.
missed like 3 games already. That's why I think BC is kind of they're a gray dog with me. They're right kind of in a shadow. But I agree with your 3 picks. I think McLeod Bethel Thompson in Toronto, who's leading the league in passing right now. I like the way the kid throws the ball. I've always has. I said this guy, he doesn't run very often. When he does, he makes positive yards. I think he's got one of the better arms in the CFL, and he's got some good receivers now in Toronto. They're playing well. Their defense is playing well. I agree with you. They're going to make a lot of noise out there. Now that's why I think Hamilton's saying, we need to get going. Obviously, Ottawa lost again. They're really getting, it's almost to the point where they're going to have to wash the season. But then you look at Montreal. So it's basically a 2-horse race in the East, and I think Hamilton can climb the ladder. But I agree.
Are you counting Montreal out?
Yeah, you know what? I love Montreal's offense, or defense. Excuse me. I'm not sold on their offense. I'm sorry.
Trevor Harris.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get good Trevor Harris. Sometimes you get bad Trevor Harris. They used to say that about Henry Burris. Do you get good Hank or bad Hank?
But
I think it's the same situation with Trevor Harris.
Trevor's won too when he was with Ottawa. He's won the Grey Cup too. So I mean, I don't want to downgrade him, but it's just I just think that if I look at all the horses in the race right now, I mean, I agree with you 100%. The Bombers are obviously favorite. If they win tomorrow, they secure a home field game. No matter what, they secure a home field game. So that's huge. Or Calgary gets beaten. If Calgary loses, Bombers still get a home field game.
Right.
But,
and I've seen some people misconstrue this. So if the Bombers win on Saturday and Calgary loses at home to BC, definitely not favored to happen. But if that happens, Winnipeg wins and Calgary loses, Winnipeg would not lock the West final. They would lock a home playoff date that would either be the West semifinal or the West final, still to be determined. But at 12-2 and Winnipeg looking at a bye following this Hamilton game, home to Saskatchewan, home to Edmonton, and then at BC before their final bye week of the season, and then home to BC to finish things up. Like, this is their second last home game of the year. We've seen how advantageous a sold-out, raucous IG field, the Madhouse on Madison, has been for this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. They've got a whole pile of home games left, and if they win and a Calgary loss, they're going to get a home playoff date as well. It's good for the bottom line. It's good for the Blue Bombers' coffers financially.
Oh,
but it's also very good for this team because they have been lights out at home for years now.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was talking to Dave Reed, one of the advertising gurus in the Bombers, before the game of the Banjo Bowl, and he said they're doing so well with advertising and dollars in the bank. And it's probably one of the first games I've gone to where I got there early. And even before the the pre-walkthrough where guys are out there before the the game, it was packed. The place was going bananas already. And usually they walk in during the game. You know what I mean? Everybody was in their seats. Everybody was singing. Everybody was screaming. Just a tremendous feeling.
Awesome
of what they've created there. I loved it. Listen, it was a great game. As the Bombers played so well, and obviously Saskatchewan had some issues. I'm not going to make excuses for them. I think, like I said, I think the Bombers would have beat them anyway. But that's why I'm looking forward to this game now. Listen, it's a rival. Bombers are 7-0 on the road. They've only got 2 more road games. If they win tomorrow, they're 8-0. I mean, they've lost only 1 game, and they shouldn't have lost that. That was a game against Montreal where they missed the 2 field goals. And speaking of that, you got to give him a little credit, Mr. Mark Allegia with the 55-yarder. And he's 3 for 3 in his last 2 games. So
missed convert though.
Yeah. You know what?
What is it about 32 yarders for him? It's been tough.
Well, that's if you look at his record. I mean, that's the thing. He struggles. That's just where he struggles all the time. It's the closer ones. He's 2 for 2 over 50 or whatever. He's 1 for 1 over 50. But yeah. Anyway, he's been. I mean, he's punting a second to none. He's punting the heck out of the ball. Directional punting is phenomenal. He's 86% now. These kickers nowadays, both here and in the NFL, they're crazy. The old days, the 50 was a great kick. Now they're kicking 58-yarders. I think the one kid kicked a 60-yarder. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like,
did you watch college football this past weekend? Like, they were missing kicks like crazy. I don't know what's in the water, in the air these days. Kickers are having trouble.
Helium in a football, because I tell you what, that ball is flying.
Yeah, it's inflate gate.
Now, having said that, the weather, Bombers. I just want to add this here, DB, being the astute weatherman that I am. I had my weather rock out there. It was wet, so I knew it was raining. But yeah, it's 27 and sunny in Hamilton tomorrow. And you know what? Anybody who's played in Hamilton knows it is muggy. The water coming, it just gets humid. But I mean, I think they're probably happy as heck they don't have to play here with all the rain. And obviously we're talking about kicking. If they had to kick here in the rain, that ball gets wet. You talk to Troy Westwood, you talk to Bobby Cameron. It's like kicking a sack of potatoes. You know what I mean? It's you're not going to see these huge, humongous kicks anymore. And as the weather gets colder, I think you're not going to see as much either because the ball starts to get hard. But I think the fans in Hamilton, we're going to have a great game tomorrow. They get to watch the two-time Grey Cup champs who have basically smashed them in the face 2 times. Actually in that field too, where they won the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
Obviously going back, a lot of good memories there. I think was it the overtime game last year?
It was. Yeah, the triple tip interception to seal it.
That was crazy, eh? I mean, Bombers they just do it all the time. And they, like, to me, that's the only thing that scares me about this team is they've had a lot of really things go their way early. And you're always trying to build. I mean, this game they played against Saskatchewan would be the game that I like to see them play at the end of the year because they were just near perfect, except for the Mary Alford kick return. But having said that, this is where it gets fun because Bombers have got a big, they got a bit of a lead on everybody in a second. But as well as I do it, and I think you hit it right on the head. In a 60-minute game of football, in a one-game take-all. Boy, I tell you, and the Bombers getting injuries now. Like you talk about the injuries, you got Evan Holm coming in there, you got Jamal Park, you got basically a rookie right side now. They could either have a great day or they could get they might have some issues. We'll have to see. This is why I love about this game is, the Bombers have been very fortunate, knock on wood, about losing key players. They just keep filling them. Danny McManus and all those scouts that down there, they find these guys, and it's a plug and play system. They just put them in there, and boom. They don't seem to miss a beat. So
the major news going into this game outside of the matchups themselves, which will be fascinating to watch, in particular, Winnipeg's defensive secondary, as you were mentioning, Chris, against Dane Evans and a very talented pass-heavy Hamilton Tiger Cats offense. The main story going into this game is, of course, the return of Brandon Alexander, the last game he played on this same field at Tim Hortons Field, the donut box, as they call it, where he suffered that knee injury in the 108th Grey Cup. He is back in the lineup for Saturday, as is fellow safety Malcolm Thompson and Michael Couture at center, but not starting. Chris Kolinkowski listed as the starter, Couture and Dobson both listed as reserves. Tell us what you think about that, Chris. And somebody that broke his arm, has needed 6, 7, 8 weeks to come back. It's not his snapping arm as a center Michael Couture is. It's his left arm. But coming back, playing with a cast, and being a reserve in that first game back.
I think it's a smart move, and I think it reflects on the play of Chris Kolinkowski. Kolinkowski has played, and I'll just take the words right out of Coach O'Shea, who said he's just been excellent. He's played very well. He's fit in like a glove. He gets along with the guys. He makes the calls. He understands. And he has that thing they all look for in the O-line in Winnipeg. He's got a bit of a tough streak, little mean streak, and they like that about him. There's no need to rush Michael back in. Do I think Michael will play tomorrow? Absolutely. I think he'll get some snaps. Absolutely. You're not dressing a guy that was a CFL PA a nominee or the award winner at that center position. All-star, thank you. Just to dress him for looks. I think that he'll go in there and get some reps, and Kolinkowski will slowly probably get moved over. But Kolinkowski is what he's done for himself is he's secured himself a future. He's going to be a good football player, and he's going to play somewhere, and he'll be in Winnipeg for a long time. I think he's young. He can play guard position. I don't think he can play tackles, but I think he can play either guard position. So I think that the young man will be he's not going to be hurting he'll be collecting a paycheck for quite a while.
Stanley Bryant on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers injury report this week. He just took a vet day on day one of practice, so nothing of concern there outside of ensuring the workload is managed for a veteran, absolute Ironman player that does not miss games in Stanley Bryant. Michael Couture, as we mentioned, backing up at center. And then some of the changes, maybe most notably on the defensive side of the ball. We mentioned Alexander and Malcolm Thompson back at safety. Nick Hallett listed there as well. Noah, his brother, 1 game back after a long-term injury to his knee, back on the 1-game injury list, which is tough to see. Evan Holmes starting at halfback in place of Nick Taylor, who was spotted in a walking boot at practice this week. He is on the 1 game, so more positive than being placed on the 6th. On the 6th game, Jamal Parker starting at corner. Of course, Demario Houston on the 6-game injured list. I'll be honest with you, Chris, just reading the body language on someone like Demario Houston, it does not look good for a speedy return for him, although that is just speculation. But talk about a guy that could have been the DeAndre Alford of 2022. Demario Houston stepped in as a second-year Bomber and captured the boundary corner spot. Injury has derailed his season, and I'm sure the Blue Bombers are hoping the best for him there. But with Taylor out, enters Evan Holm. And then, of course, with Drew Wolotarski out, Brendan O'Leary-Orange starting at wide receiver. Pulled in a touchdown, as did Nick Demsky in the Banjo Bowl. Chris, let's talk a little bit more about Nick Demsky and just how important and impactful he has been. I've been talking about it all season with Zach Schnitzer on Game Day After Dark, which we always do post-game here on the channel, live, as well as Bonfire Midweek Wednesday nights at 7:30. I've said it. Nick Demsky's time is now. No longer is Andrew Harris the star from Winnipeg on this Blue Bombers team. Nick Demsky, born, raised Oak Park High School, and the star Winnipegger on this Blue Bombers team.
Yeah, career high 6 touchdowns. He's playing extremely well. 2 last week against Saskatchewan. I mean, he's just a guy that gets it done. He's the X factor. I always talk about a guy that breaks a game open. That's the kind of guy he is. Always finds a way to get behind coverage or make a big play, and especially when they need it. I'm a big fan. He's probably going to get a little bit of recognition this year, hopefully as a star, maybe as a nominee. But when you're a 12-1 team, and I only say what they are right now, there's a lot of guys that they can put up for when you guys start your voting. It becomes a tough thing because you got a number of players you can pick from. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I really like him. I think that he's one of those guys. He wanted to come back to Winnipeg. He was in Saskatchewan for a couple of years. He was, I don't think he wasn't the kind of player he is now in Saskatchewan. But I think they all knew he was going to be.
He was young. He was young there, right?
Well, he's young, but I mean,
and it was Chris Jones. We got to remember that Chris Jones does not like paying skilled Canadians. He will pay the offensive linemen. He will pay athletes on defense, but he does not like paying high-priced Canadian ball carriers and receivers like Nick Demsky. A lot of people saying, like, how did Saskatchewan let Nick Demsky go? The answer is 2 words: Chris Jones, and to the benefit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Yeah, you're right, Travis. Sask did give up on Nick Demsky. Big shout out to everybody joining us live here on YouTube, watching on Facebook or Twitter right now. Head over to youtube.com/bonfire sports. Everybody right now, do us a favor, head down to the video below, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't. And then if you do subscribe, you can ring the bell. You'll know when we're live, pregame, postgame, and midweek. We've also been talking a little bit of NFL on the channel as of late, and we'll get a little bit of Jets action this coming winter as well. And I do have to mention this, Chris, speaking of the Jets, if you guys are on Instagram, even if you're not, go over to Instagram, bonfire.sports. Simple enough. You will find tons of content there from Winnipeg Jets prospects, Chaz Lucius, and the Cole Perfetti, and Brad Lambert, as well as Blake Wheeler and head coach Rick Bowness. And the huge earth-shattering news today that Blake Wheeler, no longer the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, giving up the C after 6 seasons, or at least it's been taken away from him. No word on who is going to wear the A's this year. And Chris, in being at that press conference today and talking with local media about the Jets leadership, game day experience, everything, polar opposites right now are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Winnipeg Jets. The Banjo Bowl was rocking at the Madhouse on Madison. The team is screws tight, locked in, and they are coming off back-to-back Grey Cups, sitting at 12-1 on the season. Everything's going the right way because of the leadership and the self-governance that Mike O'Shea has in this locker room. He's not barking orders. He's got Adam Bighill and Zach Collaros and Nick Demsky and Pat Neufeld and Willie Jefferson and Brandon Alexander and all those guys handling things in the locker room. Is that different from your time of playing with Cal and Mike Riley?
Maybe so, a little bit. Cal was basically the general, and he was the general. He didn't. I mean, we still had guys, and I think O'Shea is still a general. I think he's got a bunch of lieutenants and captains in the guys you talk about in Big Hill and Willie Jefferson and Brandon Alexander. Even though he's not playing until tomorrow, he's got a lot of guys that show leadership qualities. When I talk about when you bring up the stuff about the Jets, and it makes me sad because I think about a guy that, as you say, wore that C for 6 years. And all of a sudden it's taken away from him. I mean, I just as an individual, if I was a captain and they said to me, you know what, Chris, we have to give the C out, take it up, I'd be hurt. I don't know. I don't want to know. I'd want to. Do I want to even play here anymore? It's humbling. And it's humbling.
Blake Wheeler talked about that today. He talked about, the reports. He was asked by Scott Billick of the Winnipeg Sun, reports that the team and him were trying to work out a trade to have his time move on from Winnipeg. He said, hey, anytime you have a disappointing season, you look in the mirror, and him as captain looked in the mirror and said, maybe it's time to move on. But ultimately that didn't happen. He says he is dedicated and happy to be here in Winnipeg, but to take the C away from him and not even name the guys who will get the A, they wouldn't speak to Mark Scheifele and whether he has the A. What really stood out to me, Chris, and tell me if I'm way off base here. The team says we have a new coaching staff. We need to learn who these guys are to find out who our leaders are. Yeah. And then at the same time, almost in the same breath, they know Blake Wheeler is not the guy. How does a head coach arrive to a team and say, he's not our guy, but we don't know who the guy is? After 6 years, that's a damnation on Blake Wheeler. That's a damnation on the captain. Last thought, when Rick Bowness talked about what they're looking for, he literally said, we want a guy who's going to come to the rink energized and not be like, oh, here's another day of skate and video. And they want a guy who is happy to be here, and how blessed they are to live an NHL lifestyle, both coaches and players. It's
about it too. I mean, we're talking about,
it's crazy.
We're night and day. If you want to compare CFL and NHL, we're night and day. I mean, these guys are millions of dollars. I mean, $4 or $5 million a year.
Step up to your mic there, Chris. I want to hear you.
It's just so much money, man. I mean, to me, it's just night and day from salaries. But yeah, you know what? There comes a time, and I mean, I think it's reflect. I know they tried to blame Paul Police and say he let the old coach, Paul Maurice, sorry, that he let the players get out of control a little bit. I don't think that's right. He got hired right away to another coaching position. I think they liked him, but I think they have to have somebody to have to answer. I mean, anytime you have 20 guys in a locker room, it's different than 45. But there's always a little bit of a division. But if you have good players, they don't let that division destroy the chemistry in a room. So I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, and I think they obviously had a divided locker room. I heard stories when Bufflin was there that Bufflin couldn't take it anymore. He didn't like the fact that this room was just full of too many characters.
Do you know what Paul Maurice said 3 years ago about Dustin Bufflin and Blake Wheeler without saying their names? He literally said, somebody reminded me of this today down at the rink. Paul Maurice said, one guy runs the locker room and the other guy's the captain.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, that's exactly.
And then 2 years later, the head coach walks away. I'll ask you, Chris Walby, as I've asked everybody in my general vicinity over the last several weeks. frankly, last several months, when is the last time a head coach in pro sports, any pro sport, walked away mid-season, not fired, not dismissed, not demoted, walked away on his own volition?
That's when the inmates have taken
Never
over
happened.
the asylum. That's what happened. The inmates take over, and your warden, who is Paul Maurice, has no control anymore, and he loses. They say he loses control over the players, or the players have basically shut out their.
Said they needed a new voice.
Yeah, they need a new voice. Now, I like their new coach. I think he's going to be great. I love the fact what he's doing. I love the fact he's shaking it up. Listen, they weren't going anywhere. They were. There was a couple of years ago, they were in the playoffs. We thought they might go all the way. Then they had a struggling year last year. They've got a lot of issues, a lot of finger pointing. And there's a lot of stories coming out of that locker room. Of course, we're not in that locker room, so we can't really speak to it. It's all speculation. But I mean, we know a lot of the guys that play on the team, and you can kind of get a gist of what's going on. So I like the fact that he got a new guy, and he's gonna say, hey, listen, this is the way it's gonna be. We're not gonna have one guy run it. We're gonna have a bunch of leaders do it, and that's why I love spreading out. That's smart move to me. That's just smart. Get 7 or 3 or 4 leaders from defense to I've seen goalies with the A. It doesn't matter, right? It's just a matter of having the right characters there that are going to keep that locker room on the same length and the same path toward winning and having fun. It's all about fun. Yeah. If you're going to work and you're not liking it because, Joey Jackoff's not doing anything for you, well, so yeah, No.
You said it right. You said it right. It's very true.
Anyway, that's enough for the Jets. Let's just finish up a little bit on this game.
Well, I wanted to segue through that, and of course, that lack of leadership or lack of direction in the locker room, so different than the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And at 12-1, and things seemingly locked up, but not, Winnipeg has remained extremely focused and not taking the 3-9 last place Hamilton Tiger Cats lightly. On that note, Chris, your keys to the game that put Winnipeg at 13-1 on Saturday afternoon and in position to host a home playoff game if they get a little bit of help in Alberta.
Well, I mean, seriously, obviously they're lucky that Lawrence Wood's not playing the return guy from Hamilton. He's a breaker. I think that special teams, they're going to have to wake up. I mean, obviously they went to films, and they probably understood that, hey, listen, we let Mario Alford run one his back off to start on a kickoff return for a touchdown. Can't have that against this team. You can't give Hamilton any kind of life. Defensively, you just got to get into Dane's grill. Get in his face again, force him to make bad decisions. Listen, if I'm Hamilton, I'm going to have to try and run that football. Now you got Wes Hill, so I guess he's going to try and run the football.
We'll see.
Back. They got to do it. If they become one, so for Winnipeg, defensively, make Hamilton one-dimensional. Make Dane beat you through the air. And on offense, I think it's the same thing. Stay on the football field. And the reason I say that is the way they played, 80% on second down conversions last week against Saskatchewan. But Hamilton's a different animal. They're number 1 in 2 and outs. They're number 1 in second down, not allowing second down conversions. This is going to be a big test for the Bombers to get good first down production so they can stay on the football field. And that, my friend, is what I'm saying.
No, I'm with you there. I think Hamilton just doesn't run the ball. No. They've not had a heavy workhorse guy. And with Don Jackson out, I can't see them going to a young guy and really making him a workhorse with a tendency buster run game from a pass-heavy Ticats offense. That said, if they don't balance it out, there's Willie Jefferson, there's Jackson Jeffcoat ready to tee off. My one key to the game, however, is the other side of the football. The Hamilton Tiger Cats defensive secondary is talented. Jumal Roll, Cariel Brooks, Tunde Ndeleke, versatile, athletic trio there, let alone Richard Leonard, who has been a longtime all-star halfback in the CFL this year. We know Javan Santos Knox at middle linebacker and how athletic and rangy he is. Cameron Kelly, one of the best, if not the best, dime backer in the CFL today. So many of those guys, very, very impactful players. Dylan Wynn, Micah Johnson on the interior, but you got young players on the edges in Crawford and Winnipeg native Mason Bennett To me, the key is to get Brady Oliveira smashing heads and running north-south to get things a little bit more balanced and take away some of that coverage pressure that a talented defensive secondary in the Ticats and that they bring.
Very good points. I think you covered basically the whole team on that one, but that was good.
No, just
the other thing is, I love Andrea's comment. I'm just going to end it here. I guess Miller on special teams will have to finally come to practice. And she knows that we talk about it all the time. That
he
just basically holds a bag, it gets off the field, goes have some chicken and wings, comes back, plays the game. Man,
he was at La Burger Week. He was at La Burger Week with the guys.
Oh, that's right. Everybody's on La Burger Week. They need to get us on the La Burger Week. It's over now.
Somebody texted me. They texted the hotline right here, 204-816-TIPS, 816-8477. Chime in anytime. You got a question, you got a comment, let it fly. Asked me, can Chris Walby eat an entire Walby burger?
Well, you know as well as I do, DB, that they haven't even let me try one yet. I have, that's
blasphemy.
Yeah, it's not good, but yeah, I took a picture with a guy, a young lady, and a young lad who came up to Alumni Alley, and they had one. It is a huge burger. There's no doubt about it. I love the fact they're still doing it. I still think they should probably have a beer to go with it. I think that'd be a perfect marriage. And for some reason, we're not doing that yet, but maybe next year we'll tie something in there. Otherwise, I just, listen, have a great game, the Bombers. I just want to say this. It's raining out. It has somewhat dampened my thirst, but I still think I'll have a couple cold ones. It's a Friday. I was going to go to the lake tomorrow, but it's supposed to rain again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I may just end up going and watch the game, but I'll have to go to the lake on Sunday. I haven't been there for a while, so it's, I just want to make sure I can get out there because right now, the last time I walked in there, the mice were in there and they're smoking cigarettes, having a good time. So I took over my.
They get into your Luckies?
Oh, they're in everywhere. A couple of guys were pouring shots of whiskey. I said, "Hey, you little buggers, get out of here!" I don't like those mice, man. They're nuts. But anyway, I gotta go. I gotta go pick up some people. I gotta come up here with his dad.
I have to ask you really quickly. Rob Mahoney asked earlier. Ask Chris Walby what he most dislikes about Zach Schnitzer as you met him at the Banjo Bowl.
I don't have anything. I like Zach Schnitzer. I tell you what, if I was in prison, I'd make him my cellmate.
Yeah, see, Andrea says, I don't think Darrin will ask Chris. Well, I showed you both. I did ask Chris that.
Yeah.
Is Michael Couture starting Saturday? No, he is a backup. It will be Chris Kolinkowski. Once again, Donnie Boy wants to know, when does Drew Brown get into the game? Well, he got into the Banjo Bowl, threw a touchdown to Dalton Schoen to lead the CFL with 10 on the season. Maybe we'll see more Drew Brown in this final stretch here. And final thing, Chris, before we let you go, people want to know, could the Blue Bombers pry Alden Darby from the Hamilton Tiger Cats and bring him back to Winnipeg? And my answer is this, especially at this point in the season, why would anybody want to help the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? I know they're looking, but why would anybody want to help Winnipeg bolster one of their thinner positions?
Not going to happen. Hamilton's still in the races, and until they get finally kicked out, but the only time they look at it, then you're not going to bring a guy over for 2 games. They're going to go within their own house, and they'll get guys. They've got guys. I mean, look at Donald Rutledge Jr. You got Shane Gauthier, Phils. They got enough guys. So, no. Alden Darby, you traded in. You wanted to go to Hamilton. You're in Hamilton. So, stay with the Stripes, brother. Stay with the Ticats. You come over here, we'll hunt you down like a wild animal.
Well, there you go. Chris Walby said it. So on that note, Chris, thank you. Everybody, head over to sia.com/bonfire. Sign up, get your bonus, put a little sprinkle on the CFL games this weekend, NFL, NHL, everything else, props, futures, they got you covered.
There you go.
Thanks, Chris.
Couple fists, buddy.
We got a bye next week, so we'll see you in a couple weeks, okay?
Are you serious? We have a bye? Well, bye-bye.
Cheers, my friend. There goes Chris Walby, and quickly he goes. So I'll put a cap on this one. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. Game day after dark with myself and Zach Schnitzer, as we always do, following Bombers Ticats on Saturday. We will see you then here on Bonfire Sports.